Hello, my name is Jerry Hendricks, and welcome to our Midweek Conversation podcast at First Baptist Sweetwater. We strive to be the first responders of God's love. I'm here with Teak Hamilton, and Teak is ready to talk about Christmas.
Nope.
Teak, yes, you are.
Nope.
What do you mean?
We still
Don't
have
don't
2
shut
days.
me down on my intro. It's been 2 weeks since we've gotten together.
It has, but we still have 2 days. Thanksgiving is your favorite holiday. I don't want to rush past it. This is in honor of you, but I won't rush past it.
I think you're lying right now. No, I know you're lying right now, Teak. It's not about me. It's about you.
True.
So go ahead and let our audience know.
I put up my Veterans Day lights on the house. They're red and white.
Goodness.
And after Thanksgiving,
So
I'll plug them in. They'll be Christmas lights.
Did you turn them on already?
No,
Okay.
goodness, no.
All right.
But I just saw
You
the
gotta
string
fill me
of
with
cold
that one.
days. I'm like, I'm getting it up now.
Yeah.
So I got it up while it was warm. But they were Veterans Day lights because they were red and white.
Yeah.
So that works.
Well, good. So you're one of those, and there are a few in our church. We've talked
am
about
one of
this.
those.
That conversation starts to emerge about this time of year.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It's almost as divisive as our beans in the chili or no beans conversation.
Wait a minute. Surely it's not that divisive.
Oh, I think so. I've got one youth that will taunt me, sends me Merry Christmas, things like that.
Yeah, I know. And I received on Sunday encouragement from said youth
Oh, really?
over and over to bring up Christmas.
Okay, yeah, that's that one.
Now, I doubt that they listen to the podcast.
Probably not, but if she does, she'll know that another comment like that, and she's going back down to children's
Yeah,
ministry.
Mackenzie, if you listen to the podcast, text me and let me know.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, mercy.
Yep, she's Christmas socks, showed them to me. I was like, nope.
Well, so I've been away for a week and went to the Texas Baptist annual meeting in
Right.
Waco. Let me just say this, that if a bunch of Baptists are going to gather together, I prefer the Baptists at First Baptist Sweetwater over those I met in Waco.
Oh, I believe that without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I know that kind of thing is not your element. I was able to see a lot of friends that I only would see on occasion like that, and then also visit some of the exhibit booths of ministries that our church supports, like Buckner's
cool.
International.
Yeah.
I got to visit with them, and they sent us a gift already.
Yes, that's cool.
So that was neat to talk to them and just kind of let them know what's going on in our church and how we are supporting them. And then Texas Baptist Men is another that our church supports. My friend was not ever in that booth, my primary connection, and so I didn't stop by and talk to those guys. But
Right.
so it was, and it was an uneventful meeting as far as that meeting goes.
I mean, was this the president's or whatever he is
Yes.
in the last one?
So a lot of it was about our executive director retiring, but it's typically a meeting of reports and connections for folks. So there's a lot of the universities and seminaries will have different, and even some of the convention ministries like missions. I didn't realize this, but they do a big dinner on Tuesday night. So there's several of those things going on throughout the week. But since the Logsdon closing,
right.
I really don't have a meal to go to. So
No, you should go to Howard Payne. We'll take you in.
you know, I had
And
not.
I think they've already taken you in. You've preached
They
there. You're
s-
like an adjunct professor there.
I am making some connections there. I did not think about that one from the annual meeting perspective.
That's because they usually focus on the conclave one.
Yeah, the youth ministry one is a big one. There's over 100, usually around 120, I think, that
Right.
attend that one.
Yeah, you can go there.
And I did get a late invitation. I will try to be more proactive on those. Hang out with those guys.
That's a good one. That's probably the only
Get my
reason I would
stinger
go.
out.
Yeah, that's the only reason I would go.
Yeah.
So
Well, but it's good to be back, and it's a fast-paced. November is a fast-paced month, and I tend to
really
forget
is.
how it gets away from me. But we had church conference, our annual church conference last week, where we do the budget. I leave town virtually the next day, and then I'm gone most of the week. I got in mid-afternoon Thursday, and you and I connected on a few things. Came back over Friday and got some things knocked out. Friday or Saturday, maybe Saturday, but to be ready for Sunday.
Because we had the meal.
Yeah. So at the table was our worship Sunday.
It was a good Sunday.
Man, I feel like I'm disrespecting the high holidays of Christian faith, but being Easter and Christmas.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know of a service that I love more than that at the table service that we do.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely top 5 for me.
Yeah,
it's one of those special ones that really fits with this time of year, and I think the ones that are special are the ones that we really think about and we put a high theology on, and we really work at it to make it meaningful. It's not just passing the plate for communion. I will say that after having homemade bread for however many years for communion, you go back to the chiclets and you're like, why did parents ever hold this over their kid's head?
Those are whole wheat, gluten-free, unleavened bread crackers.
I stand by my statement.
And they fit in the communion cup.
They taste like chalk.
But they're so tiny. They had not been in the freezer, so there wasn't that freezer burn taste that you get with those little crackers. But listening to you talk about that, though, there's a natural flow to the candlelight, Christmas Eve candlelight, or to the Easter Sunday and Palm Sunday. But on this one, I think part of the difference is that we're the one that really kind of breathed life into this one.
Right.
And really, and we're not the only people. I mean, there's a lot of churches that do a meal on that Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Right.
I'm learning
that.
They
do a Thanksgiving meal.
But the whole, the at the table are really emphasizing the table like we've been able to do. And for me, it's a personal growth curve as well. And you know that.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's why it's so meaningful, is because every time we do these, we're learning and we're growing.
Oh, yeah?
When we do these special things because we added new elements and not just the communion elements, new elements to the worship service. I think that might be part of why it's so special, because it's not, that was the one thing growing up where communion was so routine. You had to do it once a quarter. It took me forever to figure out what a quarter was. But you had to do it once a quarter. It had to be done so specifically, and the pastor up in front would hold his cup up and then drink, and then you followed suit and everything, that it becomes routine. I can pretty much say whenever we have communion, it's not going to be routine. It's going to be meaningful. It's going to be something where we really thought it out, and so I do appreciate that.
Well, and our church has come a long way as well.
Yeah, that they're willing to go with it too and to learn, because when you get stuck in tradition and routine, sometimes you close yourself down to learning and growing.
Right.
And I think that's what happens when our first response is, oh, we've never done it that way before. Well, that just means that you're not willing to grow. You're not willing to learn. But our church really does. I think they really appreciate it. They think about it, and they want to grow with us. And that's it's a blessing to be a part of something like that.
Right. And one of the key difference this year, besides the way that we served communion, where people came forward and the cup, and it was double cupped rather than the peel off kind of communion cup or 2 different trays. They would come and get one cup and it would have the cracker and the juice that was already there. It was just a double cup that way, which was simple. I picked up that from a friend when I was on sabbatical. But we did the Apostles' Creed and also a prayer from the Book of Common Prayer.
Right.
And there was some. I guess the cool thing for us is that there wasn't angst over knowing that we're going to do that. Now, I did a lot of explanation. And I knew that I was prepared to do that.
I think you have to, though. Yeah. Especially if we've never done it before.
So you and I, in my sabbatical, I was asking Teak for some additional reading material that I could put on my Audible account because I was going to be doing some traveling, and he recommended a book by a pastor named Brian Zahn. So I downloaded that, looked at the different ones and found the one that was related most to what I was trying to cover in my mind at that time. And then started listening to the weekly sermons, and which you do as well, which you were doing.
Right.
And but at the end, they go into communion and they do the Apostles' Creed and this prayer, and so that's what initiated us talking about it. But I've continued, like you, to listen to him every week, and I think what we miss, because Baptists don't typically use the Apostles' Creed,
Right.
that we don't know the deep theology that's in there.
Right. Yeah. Your comment about the Baptists use the Bible as their creed was right on point. But yeah, we miss that one, and it's so simple. I think you said you'd find it hard, or you'd probably end up being heretical if you tried to find something that was wrong with the Apostles' Creed.
So I appreciate you mentioning that, because I did rethink that afterward. That was one of my where did I mess up conversations with myself on Sunday afternoon, Monday morning.
Right.
And I recalled saying that, and I couldn't remember exactly how I had framed it, but I think what struck me, and I don't know if I said it this way, is that when we talk about the Bible, you and I we emphasize a systematic theology. You have to have a systematic theology. You can't just pull out parts of the Bible and then base a theology around it, because
Right.
it starts to separate.
Yeah, your proof text.
And so that's the backdrop, I think, to lectionary and our overall approach in anything that we do, whether it's your Bible studies for students or children or our Sunday morning messages. We're going to find ourselves in a rhythm and a system where that theology can be developed.
Right.
And so that's what strikes me about the Apostles' Creed, hearing it every week through his sermons, and then trying to lead it Sunday morning, which I got emotional, because I got emotional. I couldn't help myself. I thought it was a weird place to get to choke up, but anyways.
But that's the one part of when they do the sermon each week that I listen to, or that you and I listen to. I never turn it off during that part.
Oh no.
Because it's part of that faith development in there, and so I really enjoy that also. I think the only major change that I noticed is no longer do they put the word ghost in there, it's Holy Spirit. I mean, that's like maybe the latest update if you talk about things that might have changed in it.
And you did make some edits on our slide to reflect some of that, right?
I updated it from the old King Jimmy version and went to the more NIV version.
Okay.
I'm not much for thee and thou in that part of it. So.
Well, it's definitely been a part of exploration for you and I, and I'm thankful that we have a church that is willing to go along with us in that exploration.
And that they appreciated it too. Like we got comments about that. That's good.
Well, and I failed to say this on Sunday. Because I was really time conscious, because I knew I needed to spend a good amount of time introducing how we were going to do this, and diffusing helping people understand. I think that's what we've tried to do is, if you're not comfortable with something, we're not forcing this on you, but at least be willing to investigate.
Right.
And, but in thinking through that, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, the big part that you clarified was the word Catholic.
Right.
That it's not talking about the Roman Catholic Church, talking about the universal church, the word Catholic meaning universal. And so some have changed that to where they say the universal church, but I mean, if you explain it well, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was getting at, is there are a number of people in our church who've come from denominations that say that regularly.
Right. And so
they have it memorized.
Yeah. We do not have it memorized.
No.
I would not have tried. I could probably do it, but I wouldn't do it from stage like you did. I wouldn't do it memorized up there. I would need the background screen.
Yeah, so I wondered, Chris, because on Monday I listened to Brian's sermon again, or listened to his sermon for the week, and I wonder how long it would take me. We'd have to do it every week for me to get it down.
Oh, yeah. Eventually you get it, though, because I remember it was popular a long time ago to do "This is my Bible, I am what I say as I am." That thing, and that's still in my head. I can say that because that's what our church did for years and years and years. And
well, I think
I'd rather have the Apostles' Creed in my head.
Right. So without going too long in the podcast, I do want to bring up that I think one of the interesting things, as I have pastored here in particular and dove into this more in terms of church life and denomination, that Baptist, just like the comment about that I read, that Southern Baptists didn't typically use the Apostles' Creed. They considered the Bible their creed. Mm-hmm. And that's just not, like I said, that's not practical in a worship service because there's a lot of words there.
Right.
But I think the other thing is that it's interesting that we are in a time in churches where we tend to be more creedal. Mm. And that's not always good.
Right.
But that would be a good podcast.
Right.
That would be one where we could bring in our good friend and regular co-host Ryan Strebeck. Mm-hmm. But
well, I mean, all these institutions passing new statements of faith and everything, why not just use the Apostles' Creed as your statement of faith? That is the basics that we should all be able to agree on. Everything else, there's room for grace and love. Those are the essentials. Right. But for some reason, we think we got to keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. That's when creed becomes bad. Right. But this is basic, like you said, systematic theology.
Yeah. Well, definitely a good Sunday. Good times leading up to it, and learning, and good conversations throughout the weeks that we have together here. But looking forward to Advent and all that comes our way. It's different this year with Christmas being on a Sunday,
right.
But we'll have breakfast and Bible study that day in the fellowship hall. We did that 7 years ago, I think, and so we'll. Or last time that it fell on a Christmas day, I was here.
Yeah,
and it's still a good time of fellowship and a good way to celebrate Jesus.
And if the food that morning is good as it was Sunday at the table meal, we're in for a treat.
Man, this place can cook.
Robert Moore had 5 desserts. He ate 5 desserts, and I'm just going to call him out on. No, I'm calling him out on that. I had 3, and I'm okay with that. But he had 5. I want to be up to the Robert Moore height.
Well, the bar's high.
Yeah, it is.
Well, thanks for joining us this week, Teak. It's good to visit with you and get back on track here. Looking forward to our weeks of Advent. Hope that you can join us every Sunday or most Sundays during this season. We'll look forward to seeing you this Sunday.
See you then.